When it comes to pulling women, there are generally two things that'll make or break your success. The first one is your environment. So that's the town, that's the city that you're in, basically. And what you'll tend to find is that each city, each town tends to have its own energy, tends to have its own vibe. This is something that you'll get through experience. Also worth mentioning here is the country that you're in. For example purposes, women in Western countries tend to be freer than women in, let's say, other parts of the world. So again, that certainly helps. The second is the quality of your wingmen. Basically, it's the lads that you're hanging around with. And in this video, this is what I'm going to be talking about in more detail. And I'm pretty sure if you watch this video till the end, you'll understand why the quality of your wingmen is so important. If you really want to learn how to pull women, the very best way to do that is to surround yourself with guys in the real world who are successful with women. That's the rock solid truth. It's monkey see, it's monkey do. It's being in the right environment. And the analogy that I like to use is that when you're learning how to drive, technically, you're not really learning how to drive, you're learning how to pass your test. It's only once you've got your driver's license and you're driving on your own, do you then start learning how to drive? Well, my videos are kind of the same. I do these videos really to just point you in the right direction. And the right direction is you surrounding yourself with guys in the real world who are successful with women. Because when you're around guys in the real world who are successful with women, you see with your own two eyes what works and what doesn't work. And this leads me perfectly onto the next point. In the intro of this video, I basically said that it boils down to two things. Number one, your environment, so that's the town, city, or country that you're in. Number two is your wingmen, so it's the lads that you're hanging around with. So what I'm going to do is explain this in a little bit more detail, but I'm going to use an example so that way you understand it. So the example is, right, you've got a guy and this guy has two groups of friends. In the first group, all the lads within this group are approaching women, talking to women, flirting with women, and potentially pulling them. It's normalized behavior, it's what they're all doing. So you could say naturally, when this guy is within this group, he just finds it easier to pull women. Now let's talk about group two because the vibe in this group is completely different. When he's with this group, he finds it more difficult to pull. And the reason why he finds it more difficult to pull is because the lads within this group are not interested in pulling women. When the lads in the second group go out, they're more interested in getting drunk, singing, dancing, and partying. So naturally, he finds it more difficult in group two to pull than in group one. And the analogy that I like to use is a player playing for a sports team. When a player is playing for a better team, it often tends to make him a better player, not because of natural ability, but because of his environment. The environment demands more from him. He's surrounded by better players. Well, the same thing can be said for your wingmen. This really touches on the first point, and that is skills are caught and not taught. And when you hang around with guys that are successful with women in the real world, you're basically seeing with your own two eyes how these guys operate. And what you'll tend to find, even with guys who are successful with women, multiple women, is that these guys get rejected as well. Nobody has a 100% win rate. But here's what you get to see. You get to see how these guys handle rejection. And what you'll tend to find is that they don't let rejection bother them. They've sort of developed a thick skin to it because you could say they've been rejected many times before. These are the sort of guys that can go talk to a woman, get rejected, and then 10, 15, 20 minutes later, They're talking to another group of women. And this is the exact attitude, the winning attitude that's required to pull women. And we can go back to the sports analogy because it's the same for sports teams. You look at teams that win the league year after year after year after year, they are not winning every single game. They lose some games as well. But here's the thing, when they do lose, they don't dwell on it. They simply move on to the next game. The mentality, the attitude, the mindset is more or less the same. You could call it learning on the job, and it's like with anything. The more you do something, the more you tend to spot patterns. So, for example purposes, you might find that you have more success with women when you approach with one guy rather than another guy. You could say that your personalities just bounce off each other, so it's just naturally easier. Another example could be that you find that when you approach women too early during the night, is that when you do that, you tend not to get anywhere. You see, every win, every loss is feedback, and you're getting this feedback in real time. Not to mention, a good wingman will actually point out your mistakes. He will do this in a constructive way. A very, very good way to look at it, right, is that when you and your wingman are approaching women, both of you want the same thing. And that is for both of you to pull her and her friend. So it's in both of your best interests to work together. You see, when you hang around with guys that are successful with women in the real world, you see with your own two eyes that these guys get rejected as well. So you sort of internalize the fact that if these guys are getting rejected and it's not bothering them and they're moving on and still experiencing success with women, then that's what's possible for you as well. Guys that are successful with women do not have a scarcity mindset. They are not fixating on the woman that rejected them. They get punched in the face, metaphorically speaking, they accept it and move on to the next woman.